Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf, Monday afternoon. Got a lot of great stories, big show ahead for you guys today. We'll have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about Kavanaugh, of course. We got a couple of updates in that story. But we also have some other stuff, including Donald Trump's relationship with Kim Jong-un. It is unbelievable. And you're going to hear plenty of those puns, so so you'll enjoy it. Although I might take it to the point where you might want to unsubscribe. Kidding. Okay, we've got that, of course. We'll talk about, as I said, Lindsey Graham. We got Jeff Flake. We've got the Kavanaugh investigation. Might not be what we asked for or what it seems. We also have tax cuts for the rich. What they were able to pass while we were all distracted with Kavanaugh, myself included. We also have a new trade deal. Is it better than NAFTA, the USMCA? No, it is not related to the Marine Corps. But is it a good deal? I'm going to surprise you and weigh in on what I think about the new replacement, I guess, for NAFTA. Fascinating. We'll go into the detail about that, of course, and then we've got net neutrality. So that's also a very important development as well. So a lot of fun stuff on the show today. So hopefully everybody had a great weekend. Now it's time to buckle up, to strap in, as we start a brand new insane week full of craziness. So wonderful. We'll start out with Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump. Before I get into the stories, though, please share the stream. That helps us out. So if you could do that, just hit the share button. And if you enjoy the show, also remember to give us a like. That also helps out. Okay. Moving on, let's jump into the stories. Okay. So Donald Trump seems to be very, very fond of Kim Jong-un. Well, that's an interesting relationship. First, they started out calling each other names, dotard, which was really fun. I enjoyed that word, as did a lot of people. And, of course, Donald Trump fired back by calling him literally Little Rocket Man. So there was a lot of fun that was had between the both sides, while the rest of us were kind of worried that it would start a nuclear war. Thankfully, it did not, and thankfully, their relationship actually got better. A lot better, and now it's gotten to the point of where it's weird. It's gotten weird. Let me show you a video here first, or I should say a couple of videos from a recent rally in West Virginia. Now, Trump was there, of course, to try to help get support for the state attorney general, Patrick Morrisey. So, of course, it didn't stay under the topic of Patrick Morrisey. No, of course, it went to Donald Trump rambling, and this is what he said first about his relationship with Kim Jong-un. Let's take a look.
So the fakers are saying, like, they don't know what to do. I got the hostages back for nothing. Obama paid $1.8 billion for, I got it back for nothing, right? We got the remains of our great heroes back for many, many years. You don't have any more nuclear testing. In fact, they're closing up a lot of the sites. You don't have rockets going up. You don't have missiles going up. And you have people. I like him, he likes me. I guess that's okay. Am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to say that? We've come a long way since you know the term, right? We've come a long way. But we could have been in something. Now, I'm not saying what's going to happen. Who knows? We're going to have another meeting. Chairman Kim would like to have another meeting. We'll have a meeting. You know what they did? The other day on a good network, I had one of the anchors say, "Why has President Trump given up so much?" I didn't give up anything. Really. I didn't give up anything.
Okay, so there's a lot in there. First, I just love how much of a childlike demeanor he has. I like him, and he likes me. Yay! Chairman Kim, he really likes me, and I like him because he's actually a really good guy, and he wants another meeting. But you fakers, you fake news media, I can't say that in front of you guys. Yeah, you can, but when you do, you sound like an idiot. I'm just saying. Oh my God. Okay, substantive stuff now. So, see, I did better than Obama because I didn't have to pay $1.8 billion to release the hostages. No, that had nothing to do with that. So what Donald's referring to is the money that we stole from Iran. So in 2016, under the Obama administration, we decided, you know what, Iran, we're actually going to give you back your money that you paid us for weapons. See, before the Iranian Revolution, you paid us a bunch of money to buy a bunch of weapons. We got your money, and then we decided not to give you your weapons. We just held on to your money. We just literally stole it. Now, Donald Trump doesn't give a shit because he's like, what are you talking about? You take Iran's money. That's a great deal. Why would you ever give that back? Why would you ever give them a refund? That's stupid. You guys are dumb. I go and I get money from people that are really, really dumb because they have to be stupid to give Donald Trump money. And then I put it in my pocket and I keep it. If you're an American president that gives their money back, then you're stupid. That's what it's like in Trump world. Because that's what a great deal is when Donald Trump gets rich, or he keeps by keeping your money and screwing you over. That's smart to him. But anyway, that's what that's actually all about. Now, to be fair, he did get back some remains. Okay, yeah, that's fine. As far as nuclear sites and testing, there hasn't been any tests because some of the last testing, which was underground, literally brought down a mountain that they were testing it. They're like, you know what? We're not going to do that anymore. We literally brought down an entire mountain from our tests. But on the missile sites, no, there's been satellite footage that says these missile sites, these test sites, are actually getting bigger, are actually expanding. They're expanding their nuclear capabilities. They haven't given up anything. And Donald Trump's saying, well, we haven't given up anything. No, actually, that's wrong. You did give up something. And so earlier, I should say, there was a lot of talk about the joint the joint exercises with South Korea and the United States. So Donald Trump says, well, that's provocative. I actually agree with that. I think that is provocative. And I think, look, you might want to dial those back if you're pursuing peace with North Korea, which I agree with. I agree there should be a peace deal with North Korea. But see, Donald Trump's an idiot and he doesn't understand that you could have used that as leverage in order to get an actual good nuclear deal. Like, hey man, we know that those exercises, those are very provocative. And I know you guys are very, very uncomfortable. Well, we're willing to put that on the table and not do those exercises or reduce them in scope or in size or frequency or whatever in exchange for some sort of concession. See, that's actually being diplomatic. That's playing smart diplomacy. Donald Trump comes in there and says, we're going to get rid of them. I want to get rid of them. Well, then you have just given away your leverage, you dumbass. You're an idiot. But let's go to the next video here, which is actually more interesting and I guess arguably more fun about the love letters between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Let's take a look.
You know, the interesting, when I did it and I was really being tough, and so was he, and we would go back and forth, and then we fell in love, okay? No, really. He wrote me beautiful letters. And they're great letters. We fell in love. But you know what? Now they'll say, Donald Trump said they fell in love. How horrible. How horrible is that? So unpresidential. And I always tell you, it's so easy to be presidential, but instead of having 10,000 people outside trying to get into this packed arena, we'd have about 200 people standing right there.
That's awesome. Oh man, love letters. I love him and he loves me. You should say there were beautiful, beautiful letters. Look, man, that's hilarious and fun because you can only imagine those letters. See, I'm sorry, Kim Jong-un's got it figured out. He's got Donald Trump figured out. All you have to do is say nice things about him, and then you can get whatever you want. And then Donald Trump still declares it a victory because, hey, man, he said nice things about me. Chairman Un is such a nice guy. He's such a wonderful person. He just melts my heart with how he goes and writes letters about how awesome I am. But see, here's the thing. They are so much alike. I think that Donald Trump wants to have the position that Kim Jong-un has. Like, I want to be chairman of the United States. He said it before. When I tell people to stand up, they stand up and they salute and they give me all sorts of praise. Why can't I have that job? Why can't I have that in America? Because that's not how America runs. North Korea is a literal dictatorship. If those people don't stand up and salute and say nice things about the president or the chairman, then they're literally dragged off to work camps and murdered. That's the difference. That's why people don't stand up. But see, of course, Donald Trump, again, he doesn't understand it because he's an idiot. He is, he's a dumb wannabe fascist, right? So he's like, why don't they treat me like they treat me like Kim Jong-un? I want to be treated like Kim Jong-un. I want everybody to love me and be forced to love me. That's not how America works. That is not how democracy works. Turns out, a lot of people in America actually really despise you. But again, there's so much, and he is so incredibly jealous of Kim Jong-un. It is really super, super sad to see. Sad to see on all of this. But look, that's unfortunately who the president is. He is a man-child that looks up to dictators. And apparently, and one thing that I've noticed is that, and I'm sure you all have as well, is that when it comes to our allies in democratically elected countries, well, he doesn't like them. But when it comes to his, to people in authoritarian countries who love, who are forced to love their leaders, well, he loves those people because he thinks, man, they know how to run a country. They're strong. They're strong like me. That's how I want to run a country. That just kind of shows you who President Trump really is. Okay. Let's move on. Let's jump into some Kavanaugh-related stuff. So last week, Jeff Flake had urged Congress and the president to basically allow Kavanaugh to be looked into by the FBI, to do that FBI investigation, and to basically put a halt on the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh for about a week. So, look, it's only a week, and it's actually pretty limited in scope. I'll get to the details on that in another video. But when asked about, hey, if this is possible, right? Because what you did is basically you disrupted a partisan vote, which would have been a gigantic victory for the GOP and for Donald Trump. Would you be able to do that if you weren't running for re-election? And of course, every time Flake is asked this question, when it comes to, can you stand up to Donald Trump now that you're not running for re-election? The answer is always like, no, I cannot stand up to Trump. I can't actually go against the GOP unless I'm not running for office, which is the only reason that I actually have courage, if you can call it that. But I'm going to let him answer that question being asked by CBS's Scott Pelley. Let's take a look.
Senator Flake, you've announced that you're not running for re-election, and I wonder, could you have done this if you were running for re-election?
No, not a chance.
Not a chance?
No.
Because politics has become too sharp, too partisan?
Yeah, there's no value to reaching across the aisle. There's no currency for that anymore. There's no incentive.
So, again, what Jeff Flake says is absolutely correct, right? Especially in this environment. So, there's no value in reaching across the aisle. Yeah, we already know that. And here's the thing. This is how the modern Republican Party works. See, the Democrats haven't caught up to this yet, and I'll get to them in a second. But the way the Republican Party works nowadays is that you have a lot of extremists that are in power that say, "What? Reach across the aisle? Are you mad? No, I'm going to lose my seat. If I make deals with Democrats that might actually help my constituents as well, and actually does the right thing, well then, look, I'm going to get ousted because right now, the tiny base of people that are my constituents are rabid. They have been fed a steady diet of hate and propaganda from a lot of right-wing media. You've got your Breitbart, you've got your Daily Wire, you've got Fox News, obviously, which is feeding them nothing but propaganda and misinformation. And it riles these people up. And so when you even attempt to work with a Democrat on anything, no, you can't do it. They're the devil. They're the enemy. We must destroy them. Absolutely. We can't do anything. And on the things that they actually can work together on, that's to benefit the donors. And so that, of course, brings me to the Democrats. And the Democrats, look, again, they play nicey nice with the Republicans. And look, again, on things like that benefit donors, they always work with Republicans. There's always seems to be that bipartisanship, right? But on things that would help both Democratic voters and Republican voters, things that actually help support in the middle class, Democrats like, well, let's play nice with Republicans. Let's play patty cakes and hope that the Republicans turn around and actually do the right thing and make sure that people have health care. No, you can't do that. The Republicans are literally playing with guns. Well, not literally, I should say. They're playing with guns, and Democrats, they bring like a fish or boy, that's a really, really bad example. But they bring like a wet noodle to a gunfight. I don't know why I said fish. They don't fight. They don't fight at all, unless, of course, it's something to do with the donors. Then, of course, as I said before, they bring all the bipartisanship that they can. But that's really the purpose of showing this, right? Because Jeff Flake is a great example of, hey, man, look, yeah, when I'm running for re-election, of course I'm going to do everything that Trump says, because the rest of the Republican Party has no spine. Now, I'm also not saying that Jeff Flake has a spine. He does not. Jeff Flake is almost just as cowardly as the rest, but he's slightly less cowardly and slightly less awful. Why? Because he's leaving Congress. But here's the thing about Flake. He votes in favor of Republican priorities that help the donors. Why? Because he's going to get a job as soon as he gets out of office in order, or I should say he's going to get a job with those donors. And so while he's still in office, he's going to serve the donors even if he says nice things. And that is the thing that frustrates me so much about Jeff Flake. He says the right things. He goes on flowery speeches about, what we need is we need civility. We need bipartisanship. But in the end, He votes for almost every single partisan measure. And again, this an FBI investigation, this has been hobbled by the White House. So it actually hasn't been any good. And again, I will explain how this has been hobbled by the White House and how this is actually a sham investigation. But nonetheless, Jeff Flake is like being hailed as, oh, the last civil person, the last civil Republican in office now because he's leaving office. Again, that shows you the truth about the Republicans, how they are vicious. They're as vicious as their base is. And sometimes they're only doing it so they can continue to be elected and reelected. And sometimes they do that, in the case of Lindsey Graham, because they're actually fucking vicious. And that's the big problem that I have with our political system. The right continues to pander to donors and to a smaller and smaller group of incredibly vicious, hateful people. And the Democrats can't seem to get it through their thick heads that, hey, you know what? Maybe if I actually do populism and if I actually fight, if I'm strong, then maybe we'll actually win and get good policy. And not just policy that helps the donors. So, again, look, Jeff Flake, honest, of course honest about this, because he knows that he's going to go off and he's going to get a great job for one of the corporations, one of his corporate masters that he has served dutifully while in office. And look, to be honest, to go back, Flake is one of those people who I think is, he wants to make money. That is fairly obvious. There's a lot of people that go into office because they want to make money, because they want to, after they serve, get a great position in the private sector. He's actually not one of the vicious people that I'm talking about. Again, contrast him with Lindsey Graham, who is a vicious person, who is a terrible person. So, and that's why I think he is leaving. Look, I got a job lined up, and then I don't have to cater to these horrible people anymore in order to keep my job. And so I think that's the biggest lesson that I would take from the tale of Jeff Flake. Okay. I still don't know why I said fish. Moving on. Now, lately, Senator Lindsey Graham has been showing his true colors when it comes to different issues, like the issue of sexual assault. Now, last week, Christine Blasey Ford made an impassioned, or I should say, not really an impassioned speech, but I'm struggling to find the words on this. So here's what I'm gonna go take a break. I'm gonna come back and we'll start the story fresh, because I don't want to leave you hanging like that. So we'll come back. We'll redo this when I figure out exactly what I want to say, and we'll finish out the rest of the show. So apologize, but my brain just quit. That happens. All right, we'll be back in a minute. Stay right here. All right, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf with you. Okay, so got a couple of super chats I want to read here first. What do you mean? Says much love to everyone. Much love to you as well. Thank you. And Super FKV says greetings from Denmark. You know, I love my Danish viewers. I love all my viewers, but Denmark, a lot of love coming from Denmark. So sending a lot of love back. Thank you guys. All right. Moving on. Now we can properly do the Lindsey Graham story. Okay. As of late, Lindsey Graham has been showing his true colors, especially when it comes to the his stance on Brett Kavanaugh. Now, on 60 Minutes yesterday, Graham hung out with Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Now, John Kennedy, of course, is also in favor of Kavanaugh, as are most of the Republicans. Now, he's going to be asked by host John Dickerson if there's anything that could actually change Lindsey Graham and John Kennedy's minds when it comes to their vote on Kavanaugh. So first, we're going to go to Mr. John Kennedy, who's going to give his answer, and then we're going to compare it with Lindsey Graham's answer. Let's take a look.
Could either of you change your minds depending on what the FBI report comes up with?
Of course. I mean, of course.
Open mind.
Absolutely. I said going into the hearing. I've talked to Judge Kavanaugh. I called him after this happened. The allegations came out. Said, did you do it? He was resolute, determined, unequivocal.
All right, so there's Kennedy saying, look, hey, man, I got an open mind. But then again, I know Kavanaugh, and he told me very, very strong denial. So that's kind of the Trump thing, right? Well, it's a strong denial. He denied it very, very strongly. Oh, okay, so you're going to believe that. I mean, I guess if you know, if you're buddy with Brett Kavanaugh, you think, no, my friend could never do anything like that. No. Yeah, but if you were actually Brett Kavanaugh's friend, at least if you were his friend from high school, you would absolutely know that he is capable of that because he has lied many, many times. And I know some people might ask, well, what did he lie about? Renata alumni? Come on, man. Not only that, but Boof about the Devil's Triangle. Those are just some of the lies that Brett Kavanaugh had come up with when he was basically, oh, no, Boof, that's just a fart. No, that's nothing. And Devil's Triangle, it's just a game of quarters. I've never heard of a game of quarters be called a Devil's Triangle before. And you know what? Nobody else has. Unless you're going and editing Wikipedia pages. So, yeah, he's lied about that. And I think it's fairly obvious to people who are not viewing this through an incredibly partisan lens. But that's where, unfortunately, John Kennedy is coming from. And even he's like, look, man, open mind. You know, it depends on what the FBI is going to find. So, okay, I will be willing to change my mind if they find something. Now, let's compare that to the answer from Lindsey Graham.
Senator Graham, could you change your mind?
My mind's made up about Brett Kavanaugh, and it'd take a dynamite accusation because here's the deal. Dr. Ford, I don't know what happened, but I know this. Brett denied it vigorously, and everybody she names couldn't verify it. Is 36 years old. I don't see anything new changing.
Nothing. He doesn't see anything new changing his mind. Really? Wait. Okay, so let's go down the list here. For one, well, I don't know what happened. Well, that's obvious. You weren't there. That's why we were calling for an actual thorough investigation to look at all the different claims of sexual assault and or possibly gang rape that he may or may not been involved in. And look, there are questions on that, right? So, for example, Julie Swetnick, she's like, well, Brett Kavanaugh was present. He was actually there when there were gang rapes going on. But was he involved? Was he involved in the gang rapes? Well, that would be a good question to ask Julie Swetnick. hey, FBI, you might want to get on that, right? Since you're allowed to do this investigation. Not only that, but Brett, well, he denied it vigorously. So we're doing the Trump thing of, well, he denied it. He denied it. What? I mean, I believe him. He didn't do it. He didn't do it because it was a strong, very strong denial. And of course, everybody she named couldn't verify it. Well, let's go through who couldn't verify it. There was PJ, and then there was her other friend that was also there. That friend was downstairs, right? And let me get the name of that person just so I can be absolutely correct here. PJ Smith and Leland Kaiser. So those are the people that were in the house but did not see what happened. Why didn't they see what happened? Because they weren't in the bedroom. You know who was in the bedroom? Ford, Mark Judge, as well as Ford and Kavanaugh. So, of course, they don't know what happened on, but Leland Kaiser also says, look, I believe Ford. Even though I wasn't there and I didn't see Kavanaugh and I didn't see what happened, I believe Dr. Blasey Ford. I believe her when she tells me this. I believe her account. But they don't talk about that. Lindsey Graham didn't talk about that. Those are the people that they're saying, well, everybody she can name couldn't verify it. But they still believe her. And anybody who is watching who isn't looking at it through a purely partisan lens believes her. Whereas, look, her testimony, she was credible. And look, she was a little emotional. But for the most part, not for the most part. She absolutely held it together, recounting her story. She had a lot of, detail in that story, and some detail that was missing that could be backed up if you looked into, for example, the dates that Mark Judge was working at the supermarket. So that's what the investigator should be looking into. Some of those things that help back up and corroborate that story. And look, there's a possibility they could find exculpatory evidence as well in that. And so that would go to Kavanaugh's. That would help out Kavanaugh's case. And then let's go to the final thing, of course. Oh, it's 36 years old. So because it's 36 years old, we shouldn't look into it and we shouldn't believe anything. Well, that's funny because recently there were, boys who were molested by Catholic officials, Catholic church officials that had come out after 30 years. Should we not believe them as well? Should we apply that same standard and say, well, we don't believe you. It was over 30 years ago. So we should be very, very skeptical. No, we're not going to do that. Look, here's the thing about Lindsey Graham. He is a partisan hack at this point, and he's actually an incredibly terrible person. Now, look, with Lindsey, Lindsey Graham used to hang out with John McCain. John McCain's also a terrible person, but I might actually say something controversial. I actually think he's less horrible than Lindsey Graham, because recently, ever since John McCain died, Graham has gotten worse. He's gotten more outspoken for war. He's already incredibly pro-war. He is a pro-war hawk. So he wants to go to war with Iran. He wants to bomb the crap out of innocent people, right? John McCain also warmonger, right? Lindsey Graham might actually be more of a warmonger than John McCain. And maybe it was John McCain that was holding Lindsey Graham back from some of his worst impulses. Or there's the other theory, of course, that he just wants to suck up to Donald Trump even more, which is both hilarious and sad at the same time. And this might be one of the ways. But I actually do think that Lindsey Graham is just a horrible person altogether, whether or not he's sucking up to Donald Trump. So, and just to say that there will be nothing that will change my mind from what we've seen. I don't care what the investigation finds. It has to be something explosive. And I just don't see it. I just don't see myself changing my mind. That is the ultimate problem with these people, right, with these top Republicans, people like Graham. They don't care about the evidence. They want to get Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court so that, of course, he can not only serve his donors, but he can also serve the base and hand over basically control of the Supreme Court to the far right for decades. And that's ultimately what they're doing. Republicans, as I said before, they're good about the long game. And with Kavanaugh, they want the long game. And with Donald Trump especially, like if you want to get on Trump's good side, you defend Kavanaugh. And you defend him massively. And why is that? It's because, look, Kavanaugh is going to be deciding, if he gets in the Supreme Court, a case of double jeopardy, see whether or not Donald Trump can bail out his friends. And in turn, his friends can help him out. That's what it's about. So, just so you understand what's at stake and why he is acting the way that he is. Okay. So now let's go to the investigation. Now, following the accusations levied against Judge Kavanaugh by Christine Blasey Ford, the Trump administration surprisingly, and at least it surprised the hell out of me, approved and ordered the FBI to look into the allegations made by Dr. Ford. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, good, we finally get the investigation. That's what we were calling for the whole time, a fair investigation by the FBI. Well, it turns out that investigation is actually very limited in scope. Limited to 1 week, and apparently also limited to the people that the FBI could actually talk to. Now, in a new report written in The New Yorker by Ronan Farrow and Jane Meyer, so those are two people that worked on some of the recent sex scandal stories events against Harvey Weinstein, and many others. In fact, Ronan Farrow, I gave him a lot of praise, well-deservedly so, for some of the stuff that he had to do in order to get that that Weinstein feature published. And he had to pay for his own camera crew. He was threatened, of course, by people in power, lost his job, and moved over to The New Yorker. Now, he and Meyer write together that the FBI investigation that was spurred on by, of course, Jeff Flake, is extremely limited in scope and is now ignoring a lot of potential witnesses against Kavanaugh that would just add credibility to Ford's allegations. Now, according to Farrow and Meyer, several people who would hope to contribute information about him to the FBI said that they have been unable to make contact with FBI agents. Now, you would think that if somebody has a tip, or that if somebody has information in this incredibly high-profile case, that the FBI would go, okay, yes, come talk to us. We're open to doing an investigation. We've got a week, so let's, you got information, you want to share it, we're there. We're there. Well, that's not what's happening. And President Trump did promise, oh, no, free reign. You can have free reign. But the New York Times had reported on Saturday that that is not the case, that they actually did not get free reign, and they had asked that the FBI question only 4 witnesses. Now, earlier today, and this is just breaking as at the time of this broadcast, Trump said, oh, okay, no, never mind, go ahead and ask anybody. So basically, they admit that we only want you to talk to 4 different people instead of so many others. And it took, of course, the, failing fake news New York Times to put out a story that says, actually, that's not true, for the Trump administration to actually change and say, okay, you can talk to anybody, not just these 4 different people. Okay. So now that we have that context, let's go into those 4 people. Well, okay, before we get into the 4 people, though, we've got more from the story. Now, some of those witnesses say they have information relevant to the FBI's probe, are suspicious that the investigation will amount to what one of Kavanaugh's former Yale classmates called a, quote, whitewash. Roberta Kaplan, an attorney representing one potential witness, Elizabeth Razor. Now, she's very, very important because she is a former girlfriend of Kavanaugh's high school friend, Mark Judge. Mark Judge, the guy who actually hasn't testified yet. Now, she said that her client has, quote, repeatedly made clear to the Senate Judiciary Committee and to the FBI that she would like the opportunity to speak to them. But, quote, we've received no substantive response. Now, that's of yesterday, right? Now, Kaplan said early this past week that she began reaching out to the FBI and to the Senate Judiciary Committee on Razor's behalf. Quote, she feels a sense of civic duty to tell what she knows. But the only response we've gotten are emails saying that our emails have been received. At one point, she said an FBI official suggested she tried calling an 800 number telephone tip line. Hey, I've got information about Kavanaugh that is extremely important and relevant to the investigation. Yeah, call our tip line. But I'm talking to you right now. Yeah, call our tip line. Yeah, we're not interested in looking into it. Just call the tip line. And then we may or may not get back to you. Don't know. There's more. Deborah Katz, the lead attorney for Ford, also said that her client, too, had been willing to cooperate with the FBI's investigation, but as of Sunday, the FBI had not contacted her. Quote, we've tried repeatedly to speak to the FBI, but heard nothing back. Now remember, they only got a week. Again, they want to wrap this thing up by Friday so they can immediately get to a confirmation vote. They're in a rush. They're in a rush. Now, the FBI officials, interestingly enough, told Katz to contact the White House. Well, wait a minute. The White House says we're not involved in this investigation. They have free reign. We didn't tell them to do anything. No. Why are you referring questions back to us? You're the FBI. You're supposed to be doing the investigation. Well, why would the FBI refer you to the White House unless the White House has something to do with the investigation and is trying to micromanage this? That doesn't look like free reign. That looks like political cover-up. Now, to give you more context into who Razor is and why she's important, why her testimony is very important to the character of Mark Judge, she had dated Judge off and on for 2 to 3 years while they were students at Catholic University. Now, she's a public school teacher now in New York. And after hearing Judge's denials, she came forward offering to give a sworn statement to the FBI, challenging Judge's credibility. According to Kaplan, the FBI has so far shown no interest in hearing what she has to say, and efforts to contact the Bureau have gone nowhere. And she is not the only one. A Yale classmate attempting to corroborate Deborah Ramirez's account that during her freshman year at Yale, Kavanaugh thrust his penis in her face at a drunken party, said that he too has struggled unsuccessfully to reach the FBI. The classmate, who was asked to remain anonymous, recalled hearing about Ramirez's allegation either the night it happened or the following 2 days. The classmate said he was, quote, 100% certain that he had heard an account that was practically identical to Ramirez's 35 years ago, but the two had never spoken about it. Now look, that could be a good tip, or it might be something else. Again, it is a long time ago, to be fair, and sometimes people's memories are hazy, especially when it comes to drinking. Now, but he is absolutely certain, so he should definitely get interviewed by the FBI. The FBI should actually look into it. But are they doing that? No. At least not right now. Now, and again, that account itself is vague, but it would also add to the mounting evidence that other people had said, yes, that this had happened. We heard about that story. We heard that it happened. And here, more people are going to testify that we do think that indeed that happened. Okay, there's more. Now, let's see. Here's his experience with the FBI, by the way. Now, he had hoped to convey this to the FBI, but when he reached out to a bureau and official in Washington, D.C., he was told to contact the FBI field office nearest to his home. When he tried that, he was referred to a recording. After several attempts to reach a live person at the field office, he finally did reach an official who apparently had no idea what he was talking about. At this point, he said he went back to an official at the FBI's DC headquarters, who then referred him to an anonymous 800 number tip line. This classmate, talking about the runaround that he received, said, quote, "I thought this was going to be an investigation. But instead, it seems like it's just an alibi for Republicans to vote for Kavanaugh." And he says that he has been in touch with other classmates who also wanted to provide information corroborating Ramirez's account, but they had not done so. And honestly, why would you if the FBI is not going to take this seriously? And that seems to be what's going on. Now, there's more. On Sunday, a second Yale classmate, Charles Ludington, released a statement accusing Kavanaugh of blatantly mischaracterizing his college drinking during his testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee last week. So, look, that's one of the things that Kavanaugh has likely lied about, among many other things, especially there was his drinking, and then there was also Renata, the Renata alumnist, and so on, right? So now this man, Ludington, said that Kavanaugh often grew belligerent and aggressive when drunk, and that he had planned to share his information with the FBI. He said, quote, "I can unequivocally say that in denying the possibility that he ever blacked out from drinking, and in downplaying the degree and frequency of his drinking, Brett has not told the truth." So that is very strong, basically saying he is lying. He said, also, "I felt it was my civic duty to tell of my experience while drinking with Brett. And I offer this statement to the press. I have no desire to speak further publicly and nothing more to say to the press at this time. I will, however, take my information to the FBI." Now, he said, according to the Times, Ludington, a professor at North Carolina State University, said the FBI's D.C. field office had told him to go to the Bureau's Raleigh, North Carolina field office on Monday if he wished to speak with agents. Ludington said, I will do so and tell the full details of my story." So, now, okay. Now, so here's the thing. There's a lot of people apparently very, very willing to be interviewed by the FBI. Now, to those who say, oh, they're probably just making it up. Well, you think being interviewed by the FBI is awesome? No, it sucks. In fact, they keep citing their civic duty. Well, what does that mean? Basically, it means like, look, we know this guy. We've, either been friends with him or we went to school with him. We saw him at these parties. We know this guy. We've seen him. And the person that he is presenting himself as to the country is not the person that we know. That is not the Brett Kavanaugh we grew up with. That's not the person we partied with. Here's what the truth is. And so the reason that it's civic duty, they feel, is like, look, you're lying to the country. We just want to tell the truth. And why is Brett Kavanaugh lying? Because that's what he does. He's very wealthy, entitled, and he has gotten to his positions through deception. He is an unbelievable liar. And is incredibly partisan, by the way, which you're not actually supposed to be so nakedly, openly partisan when you're going for a Supreme Court justice position. So there is that as well. But look, what about the people who the FBI originally was going to interview, right? The 4 different people. Well, according to the Times, the 4 witnesses approved by the White House were P.J. Smith, another high school friend of Kavanaugh's, Leland Kaiser, a friend of Ford's, and Ramirez. Now, I believe you also have Judge, right? Mark Judge. Now, lawyers for Smith and Kaiser have issued statements saying that their clients will cooperate with the investigation, though Kaiser's told CBS that she will tell the FBI that she does not know Kavanaugh or remember the party where Ford's alleged assault took place. Kaiser has also stressed, however, that she believes Ford and does not refute her testimony. So, and PJ also was there supposedly at the party, but didn't actually know what went on. Didn't actually see the alleged assault. So that seems really convenient for Judge Kavanaugh. Because again, Kaiser Smith didn't say anything. According to Ford's own account, they were downstairs the entire time. How would they have known? No, what they should be doing is they should be talking to Judge's ex-girlfriend. Now, I understand, too, that maybe she might have a grudge against him, right? But, hey, that's why they should talk to her, to see if she is telling the truth. Because, again, this is really relevant to Judge's credibility as a character witness for Brett Kavanaugh. It is really, really important that they talk to her. Now, she said, quote, that under normal circumstances, I wouldn't reveal information that was told in confidence, but I can't stand by and watch him lie. She recounted that Judge had told her ashamedly of an incident that involved him and other boys taking turns having sex with the same drunk woman. Now, here's the thing. So, going back to Julie Swetnick, who also came out and said Kavanaugh was present, Judge was also there at parties where boys would line up and do trains on unconscious drunk women. Now, what does present mean? Was he involved or wasn't he? Maybe that's something you need to talk about. Maybe that's something you need to look into. They should absolutely talk to Racer. Because maybe, they'll find something that, again, corroborates Julie Swetnick and her testimony as well. And again, they should talk to Julie Swetnick as well. All that stuff needs to be looked into. But what I see from this report is, unfortunately, the FBI investigation that, look, I myself have been advocating for through this entire process since these allegations came up, seems to unfortunately be tightly leashed by the White House and basically a way for, politicians and the president to protect someone who may or may not be a sexual predator. But, of course, is indeed, minus that, an incredible liar. Okay. Moving on to non-Kavanaugh related stuff. Moving right along. All right. On Friday, Republicans passed a new $3.1 trillion tax cut with the help of 3 Democrats. Now, this passed the House of Representatives. We don't know if it's going to be able to make it in the Senate. It's very unlikely to actually pass before the midterms due to the complete unpopularity of the first tax cuts. Nonetheless, while most of the country was understandably distracted with Brett Kavanaugh in those proceedings, Republicans said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pass these giant tax cuts for the rich. Now, according to Fortune, the down-to-the-wire 2017 Tax Act, passed in late December, contained a mix of permanent and temporary changes that had to result in a net increased cost that fell within the structural limit of $1.5 trillion. That allowed the Senate to approve the bill with a simple majority. However, these new tax cuts, well, they don't have to be passed by that simple majority. And that's, of course, why it is unlikely to pass the Senate now. So let me tell you what's actually in it and what kind of impact it will have. Well, according to tax experts, the extension of these taxes and a lot of what's in this bill is actually making some of these individual tax cuts permanent. But along with that, of course, there are massive giveaways to rich people and corporations. And in fact, it will mostly give most of the gains to the richest Americans. According to the Tax Policy Center, the individual tax cut extension would cut taxes for American households by $1,600 on average in 2026. but the gains would not be shared equally among different income groups. Now, the bill, according to Howard Gleckman, a senior fellow at the Tax Policy Center, the bill to extend the TCJA's, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, of course, individual and estate tax cuts, has the same structural flaws as the original. It is an enormous budget buster that primarily benefits high-income households. Now, let me show you how much it will impact different households. Now, the lowest income quintile, households that make up to $28,000 a year would receive an average tax cut of about $100 per year. Wow! So that's the average tax cut for people who are poor, right? That is a 0.5% boost to after-tax income. Those in the middle get a little bit more. They would get an average tax cut of $980 per year. That is a 1.3% average boost to incomes. People in the top 1%, however, will get an average tax cut of $40,000. $40,000. That is a 2% boost to after-tax income. And look, that's the top 1%. So in addition to what they have already received in the first round of tax cuts, that's about $60,000 extra dollars per year that they save in taxes. Add on another $40,000. That's how much they get to save per year in the top 1%, just from these tax cuts. Now, additionally, according to the Tax Policy Center, while most people, around 66% of households, would receive a small tax cut, 9% of households would see their tax bills increase due to the elimination of some tax credits in this bill. The other 25% would see their change in their tax bill of $100 or less. So this massively benefits, surprise, surprise, incredibly wealthy families. Again, they want to make they want to reduce the estate tax, and actually they want to eliminate the estate tax. Now, the package they also mentioned would add to the federal deficit, of course, and basically what that does is that now Republicans, after massively adding to the deficit, say, "Oh my God, we've got to cut spending. We've got to cut your Social Security. We got to cut Medicare. We got to cut food stamps. We got to cut all these social programs. We actually can't invest in the American people, and we have to raise taxes on certain individuals, people who are obviously not in the 1% and are not their donors." So that's the issue here. They're reducing revenue so that they can shrink government and issue more privatization. So that's the ultimate goal, to privatize most of what government does so that their friends in industry can make an extra buck. Now, the Tax Policy Center has estimated the entire package would add $631 billion to the deficit through 2028 and another $3.8 trillion from 2029 to 2038. The Tax Foundation also estimated the move would decrease federal revenue by $576 billion through 2028 and $113 billion every year afterward, even when factoring in supposed economic growth benefits. And as I mentioned before, there will be a small boost to economic growth in the short term, but look, it's like you're running the government on a sugar high, is what's going on here. You give a little bit of tax cuts, and then what do they do then with those tax cuts? They don't actually go and create more jobs. They don't actually create or raise wages or create more benefits. No, what they do is that right now they have put billions and billions of dollars into buying back their own stock. That again creates money for shareholders, and then they cash out, filling their pockets, of course, with all that extra money that they save, which actually hasn't created more value for the company. So these stock buybacks from the tax cuts are creating nothing more than a bubble. And what happens to bubbles? They burst. They burst And guess what? Guess when the last time we had a bubble that burst? What happened? It crashed the economy. You think that's not going to happen? No. If we actually pass this tax cut, if the Senate passes this tax cut, we're going to be even closer to an economic disaster. And of course, fortunately, most of the American people know that. And why they would do it so close to a midterm and why they would try to pass this, I don't understand. Or maybe, look, maybe it's because they know that this is the last chance that they have to try to push through their agenda. They can't sell this to the American people because the American people don't want it. In fact, according to a leaked Republican National Committee poll, American voters don't like the tax cut bill. They actually think, in a 2-to-1 margin, that this only benefited large corporations and rich Americans, which is absolutely 100% true. That is all that it benefited. Large donors and corporations. And yet they still try to pass this through. It shows you what their priorities really are. So, look, if somehow Republicans win the midterms and they get control, not only keep control of the Senate, but actually pick up seats, which I think is very unlikely, this is what they're going to try to do. More tax cuts for the rich, more deregulation, and, of course, Judge Kavanaugh. So, now you know. All right. Shoot. All right. I'm going to do it anyway. I got to do the new deal. The new trade deal. All right. Donald Trump, it appears, has finally followed through on a campaign promise. No, we're not actually building the wall, which is a ridiculous idea, but Donald Trump actually has made some changes to NAFTA. Fascinating. So let me give you the details here. Now, President Donald Trump and his Mexican and Canadian counterparts are expected to sign a new deal, a new trade deal, by the end of November. Now, negotiations between Canada and the United States have pushed right up to a deadline imposed by the Trump administration Sunday night. And details of the the agreement were starting to emerge. Now, this is according to CNN, who details what's actually in the deal. What did America get? And by the way, this is now called the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement. So they're changing it from NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, to the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement. Okay, then. Why the name change? Well, that's going to be a relevant question after I give you the details. Now, there are some changes to NAFTA. One is Canada has opened up its dairy market. Now, under the original NAFTA, Canada limited how much milk, cheese, and other dairy could come from the United States. Under the updated agreement, Canada will set new quotas for the United States, and it will increase market access for U.S. dairy, poultry, and eggs. In return, the United States will allow more Canadian dairy, peanuts, and peanut products, and a limited amount of sugar to cross the border. So, yay, we're opening up Canada's dairy market by about 3.5%. Wow. Fascinating. Fantastic. Now, Canada has also agreed to end a system that had kept the price of milk, some milk products, including milk protein, low. This change will allow more U.S. dairy products to enter the Canadian market. So look, that's not terrible. I mean, that might help some American farmers. Probably not small farms, let's be honest. It's mostly going to help big corporate farms. So take that as you will, right? Now, What about cars? Well, now, this may actually be a decent change. Now, the new deal would require more of a vehicle's parts to be made in North America in order for the car to be free from certain tariffs. Now, it requires that 75% of the car parts must be made in Canada, Mexico, or the United States. That's about 12 percentage points higher than under the original NAFTA. So the provision will help bring the production, keep the production of car parts in the United States and bring back some production that moved to places abroad, according to the U.S. Trade Representative. Okay. Now, Ford is in favor of this. So that's interesting. Now, there is also something that is in labor related to making cars. Now, the deal mandates that 75%, as I said before, vehicle parts be made in North America, up from the current 62.5% rule. Now, this might keep a lot of production in America, as I said before. Mexico has also committed to recognizing workers' rights to collectively bargain. And the three countries agreed to enforce rights recognized by the International Labor Organization. So that's actually not bad. So not only that, but there is, for workers, the new trade agreement will require that 40 to 45% of car and truck parts be made by workers, making at least $16 an hour. Now, look, when I worked in car parts, so I helped make bumpers, and later on, I worked for a place that did plastic injection molding for car interior. I wasn't making no $16 an hour. No, I was making, doing the welding, $13 an hour, which wasn't bad for me, working right out of high school. But at the plastic injection place, I made about $10 to $11 an hour. Having it $16 an hour for car part suppliers, that's not bad at all. That's actually really good. So that is one positive thing in this. Now, look, I'm in favor of the pro-union stuff. I'm in favor of higher wages. That's just a couple of the changes, right? There's also dispute resolution. That's barely a change from what we had before. We also have the question of other tariffs, right? Not only that, but of course, currency manipulation is also mentioned in this, where they're going to crack down a little bit on currency manipulation, all that different stuff. So, look, as far as this goes, this is basically the same as NAFTA, but tweaked a little bit and renamed. So that's what this is about, right? This is Donald Trump taking something, changing it just a little, and then changing the name, and then taking credit for it. He said, this is a tremendous deal. This is a fantastic deal. This is what Donald Trump does. But hey, you know what? At least we can say he didn't fuck it up terrible. Okay. Again, this could be a lot better, but considering who the president is, it could be a lot worse. But it's basically just an updated NAFTA. You know what? Let Donald Trump have his win, as long as he doesn't fuck it up worse. So that's all I have to say on that. Okay. I know, damning with faint praise, right? That's how we're living with the Trump administration. Okay. So before I go, more super chats here. Super FKV again sends a pig for the picture of Lindsey Graham. There are some similarities. And then notes that the 1 hour minimum wage from Denmark is $20. So thank you for that. Yeah. Look, in comparison, personally, to the $16, is it better than what we have? Yes. Should our wage actually be tied to productivity? Absolutely. Because if it did, it'd be incredibly high. It'd be a lot higher than $15 an hour, be a lot higher than $16 an hour. It'd be somewhere in the 20s, maybe 30s range here soon. So just to put that out there, because I know a lot of you guys are talking about that as well. So thank you, though, for those super chats. Thank you for helping out the show. Another way you guys can help the show, please like and share our clips. Also look into maybe becoming a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning into the show. Thank you for participating. Thank you all. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.